Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah and in today's tutorial I want to show you how you can cast on double pointed needles to knit in around without twisting your stitches. I also want to demonstrate how you can achieve a smooth transition in between your needles, especially at the beginning of the round, so you won't have any visible gaps. I also have included some timestamps below so you can jump directly to the section you want to see. When you want to knit in a round using double pointed needles, you need 5 needles for this. 4 will hold your stitches and the fifth one is to knit the stitches. By arranging the needles in a square on a table, you can see how they will look later once you are finished with your cast on. For example, if I'm knitting a sock with 52 stitches, I divide the number by 4, which means each needle will have 13 stitches and the fifth one is to knit the stitches. So for our socks or hats, we want to cast on with a very stretchy cast on. So we can either use a German twist cast on or we can use the normal long tail cast on, and when we are knitting our cuff, we will need to knit them with smaller needles. So many knitters are holding 2 needles together to achieve a very stretchy cast on, but you can also use a size bigger. So I am knitting my cuffs with 2.5 millimeter needles, and for the cast on I'm using 3.5 millimeter needles. This also ensures that your cast on stays nice and stretchy. So for this cast on method you will only need 2 needles. So again, I'm knitting a sock where I have to cast on 52 stitches. So when I divide this 52 stitches by 2, I will have 26 stitches. So I need to cast on 26 stitches on each needle. So I will use the normal long tail cast on to cast on my first 26 stitches on my first needle. So when you're finished with your first 26 stitches, grab your second needle and bring it in front of your first needle. I'm holding both needles with my right hand and then I'm casting on the next 26 stitches on the second needle. Make sure to pull the first stitch really tight so that there won't be any gaps. So cast on with your long tail cast on the number of stitches you need on your second needle. So now I am finished with my cast on and I have a total of 52 stitches. So when you look closely at your cast on, you can already see that you have a right side. This little waves here is your right side, and when you turn your work around, you have these little burl bumps here, and this shows you that you are at the wrong side of your knitting. But you don't have to turn your needles around for the next step. You only have to fold your needles away from you so that the wrong sides, so the burl bumps, are facing each other. See, I'm only folding my needles away from me so that the wrong sides are facing each other. This step is really important because this ensures that nothing is twisting when you start knitting in a round. Let me tell you that this is a really nice and easy cast on because you don't have to fiddle around with 4 needles and bring it somehow together to see after a few rounds that it is twisted, and I promise that this cast on will spare you from so much frustration. So your working yarn has to be at the back needle. I twisted it somehow with my short tail from my long tail cast on. I have to fix this real quick, and then I'm bringing my working yarn in between my 2 needles, so like this. And then I can grab my smaller needles and start knitting my first 14 stitches on my first small needle. The first round will only be knit stitches. So when you knit your first 2 stitches, this can feel a little bit tight, but only the first 2 stitches. After this, it will get really easy. And the next step, this is also really important to prevent any gaps, is you have to pull your first 2 stitches really tight. So I'm fighting here a little with my yarn. So make sure you pull the first 2 stitches really tightly because this draws everything together and you won't have any gaps between the needles. This is a really important step so that there won't be any gaps. You can see that I'm really pulling on my working yarn to make everything nice and tidy. So after 2 or 3 stitches, you can let go of your back needle and only hold your front needle, and this makes everything very easy to knit. So I will knit my first 13 stitches on my needle here, but when you're using another yarn weight, you are most likely will need to knit more or less stitches than I do. So now I'm grabbing my second smaller needle and I will knit the next 13 stitches on it. And again, when you knit the first 2 stitches, make sure to pull the yarn tightly because this helps draw everything together so that you don't have any gaps between the needles. So when you knit the last stitch from your bigger needle, you can lay it aside because you don't need it anymore. So now on to the second needle, the second bigger needle. We will grab our third smaller size needle and knit the next 13 stitches on it. And again, my first 2 stitches, I will pull them really tight to prevent any gaps. So, and now the fourth and final needle, I will knit the last 13 stitches on it. When you're knitting with double pointed needles, just ignore the other needles. Focus on the 2 needles you are knitting with. So your last stitch will be a little bit looser because this is your first cast on stitch. So you are pulling a little bit on your shorter tail to tighten the stitch up. And when we look at our work now, you can see that everything is nice and nothing is twisted. And we have a little small gap here in the beginning of the round, but this will close itself after a few rows. I will show you. When you knit your first 2 stitches, make sure you always pull it tight because this will draw everything together and nothing is loose or you won't have any gaps here. And I will also start working my ribbing. So I will knit 2 stitches and purl 2 stitches. So my camera didn't want to work here anymore and sometimes it gets out of focus. So this is what your project will look like after the first row. The gap is already visible smaller. And this is what it looks like after the second row. You can see that you have a really nice transition in between your needles, and when you weave in your ends later, there won't be anything visible anymore. So this is my favorite way to cast on double pointed needles and to prevent any gaps in between your needles. And as you can see, your cast on is also very nice and stretchy. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you did, please give a like and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Thanks again for stopping by. I wish you all the best. Until next time, bye!